Well, TVNZ was one of the media outlets that was lucky enough, God, I'm not sure if that's the word, lucky enough to get exclusive interviews with the former Minister of Justice, Kiri Allan, who yet again in the last few days broke her silence about the events that led to her on a Sunday night, I think it was, or early Monday morning, crashing into a car just down the road from my place on Evans Bay Parade, and then, under mysterious circumstances, being arrested by the police and not cooperating fully with them. A police tracker dog was called. The car that was hit was written off. It appears to have been a random accident, and she appears to have blown above the legal driving incident. She's been charged and she's to appear in court, though one would have thought, because this happened, late last year? Before the election. One would have thought she would have been dealt with by now. But now her hearing has been put off till May. She's pled not guilty, and when she previously broke her silence on this, she said she was going to argue that she should have had a lawyer if the police even wanted to talk to her. And now it's all about mental health. And apparently she was going to try and kill herself that night. And in the interview I saw, which was one with Jenny May Coffin, a netballer on Breakfast News, she said she was driving back from Parliament, but the accident happened on the way towards the city on Evans Bay, not away from the city. She said it was near an apartment block. It was nowhere near an apartment block. I drove past it this morning and slowed down and checked. No apartment block in Kui of where the accident took place. And she says she sat on the curb. Well, that's all yet to come out in evidence. But the amazing thing that struck me is she's pled not guilty to this charge, and here she appears to be discussing the matters which will be in evidence before the court in May, yet again. And I thought, geez, is that legal? How do the courts feel about that? And our go-to guy for constitutional legal stuff and most legal stuff is Graeme Edgeler. And Graeme, I got that right this time, didn't I, Graeme?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
And he joins us now. Graeme, what's the deal? I've seen plenty of speculation. Is that illegal? It's sub judice. What is the deal about talking about events that are going to come up in evidence in a court case ahead of that court case if you're the defendant?
The particular risk that you need to be concerned about as a defendant, as anyone else, but particularly a defendant, is if there's a jury. Like that's where the courts get really concerned. Are you trying to sort of pollute the jury pool, get your story out there so that the jury maybe hears something that they're not going to hear in court, and then that never gets in evidence. But in the back of their mind, as they read that thing in the newspaper, isn't that a thing that happened? This isn't a jury trial. So basically, a lot of the things, there are still some rules, but a lot of the rules that you hear about, when there are other high-profile cases, it's because it's a high-profile murder case or a high-profile rape case, and murder and rape cases get jury trials.
But this is just a DUI.
Yeah. I can't even remember if it's that. I'm failing to stop. And so...
careless use of a motor vehicle, I think, too.
Yes, yeah. It's. I think I don't think it's a DUI because I think she was over the new limit, not the old limit. So if you remember, a few years back, we changed the number.
Oh God!
So if the old limit is a criminal offence, the new limit is just a ticket, like a speeding ticket.
Oh, okay. So summary offence.
And so I think she wasn't over the old limit.
Okay.
And so it's not a prosecution; it's just like a more like
then what is the point?
A serious ticket.
Yeah. Of course, she hasn't broken her silence about what's happened because she hasn't faced a real interview that's asked her real questions about the chain of events that night. She's had softball interviews from people who for some reason seem to find her fascinating. But I get the feeling that it's not a good look, and even a judge is going to sit there and maybe just be a little pissed off that she's banging on about this before she has a day in court.
It depends what she's saying. Mostly it's relatively anodyne. The risk, as a lawyer generally, and maybe not in this sort of case with this particular type of defendant, sort of professional, knows what they're doing. As a lawyer, you'd tell your client to shut up.
Yeah.
Just because.
And I've been told that plenty of times by lawyers.
It's very difficult to imagine you helping yourself. And you could say something in this, and then, the problem you have, it's risky as a client, as a defendant. You say something now, and if you say something different in court and someone remembers.
All right.
Because it's not just we're reading this, the prosecutor can read this.
Yeah.
And if she gives evidence or calls evidence from someone else who says something like, well, haven't you said on a previous occasion X?
Right.
And...
So really, it's hard for me.
It's a bad idea,
yeah.
but it's not a bad idea because it's illegal.
Yeah.
Because it's not illegal.
Okay. So it's not illegal. She's not breaking the laws of sub judice or anything else. She's free to say what she thinks. Okay, that's good. I'm glad we've established that, Graeme. The point then is, why would you do this? Why would you bang on about this stuff?
Like, sometimes I've had a few clients for whom it's true, it's what's the next step in her life? Like, imagine that the hearing goes as badly as it possibly can go.
Yeah.
She's convicted of everything she's charged with.
Yeah.
The consequences aren't that severe for a first-time defendant.
Yeah, what would they be?
Even if
she go to jail?
Community work. I don't, home detention is too much for this.
Yeah.
This is very low level, right?
So why would you draw attention to it if you're trying to set up a PR consultancy firm? That's the other thing that doesn't get me, Graeme.
I don't know much about PR, but it's whom does she want to be a client? So what, you just she's trying to set up a PR firm. And, you have to talk.
Yeah.
If you want to set up a business, I don't know, if it was a serious charge, the consequences of stuffing up an interview and saying something that you didn't mean, and then it hurting your cases at the trial would matter.
Yeah.
If it was, well, it's not. It's not a serious charge. So, even if she makes it so much worse, she completely, she goes to one of these interviews intending to say something and doesn't, and then basically admits everything.
Yeah.
Just change your plea to guilty the morning of the trial. The judge will say, I don't have to hear this day. I can get on with some other work.